bring awareness to whatever emotion comes, sit with it, accept it, and then open your heart to the lesson it has come to teach you. Because if you sit with it enough, long enough, and you're able to accept it, you'll see that it's telling you something about yourself or about your experience that will give you power to change that, to grow.
Love that.
So let your emotions be your teacher.
I love it. I like how like Kanye said, like his mental issues are not a disability; they're a superpower. You know, I love that shit.
Yeah.
I say, bring it on. I fucking love adversity. You know what I mean? I just love it. I want all that smoke. I know that that's the opportunity to grow and get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's get better together. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, bro. The bridge.
All right, we're back, bitches. Live and direct from the bridge.
Das Bridge.
Captain America and Doctor Strange coming at you. Once again, Sean Nixon.
John Matthew. We got emotional stuff today, Sean. Feeling emotional today? How you feeling?
I'm emotional every day, bro.
All the time?
You know this. I'm emotional all the time.
He cries a lot. It's an issue.
That was the thing. We were joking off the bike. I used to never cry, not in a good way, like stuffing my fucking emotions in a sack,
Jam that shit
jamming them in there like it wasn't fucking dynamite ready to explode. And now it just reminds me of the Jimmy Valvano quote where it's like he said, "You should think and learn and laugh and be emotionally moved to tears every day." He's like, that's a good, productive day. And when I heard that when I was young, I didn't understand it. Not that I didn't agree with it or whatever, but I associated crying as like a bad thing. But gotta let your emotions flow.
Yeah.
Gotta let them flow.
No, that's an important thing. I mean, that's a very common theme with a lot of people who have evolved, consciously and grown emotionally, mentally, is just being open to feel that emotion. And obviously that's like a taboo with men, and our culture is like, cry, you're man to man.
Yeah, I see both sides of that.
Yeah.
I see not only like men and women, but like masculine and feminine. Like some people let their emotions run wild and fucking there's like a logical solution to something, and they just let emotions fucking run wild.
Yeah.
And we've seen the opposite, like you said, where it's like there should be a normal emotional response, and you're trying to use logic to figure this problem out because I'm not gonna fucking deal with my feelings.
Yeah.
So neither thing is optimal for emotional health.
Yeah, if you're on an extreme, it's probably not where you need to be. for not need to be, but it's probably not going to be super beneficial long term to be on any kind of extreme, mentally, emotionally, physically, right? So, but emotionally is what we're talking about today.
That extremes only work in politics, John. You have to be extreme left or extreme right.
That's the only thing. That's all we got.
The logical middle has no say. But another topic for
It's another podcast, a whole other podcast. So yeah, let's start. I mean, the idea of emotions in general. There's just so many emotions that pop in people's head. People
like a spectrum of emotions.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. People, you say love, or love is like the big thing that pops in people's head. Probably when you'd say emotion, but there's a whole spectrum, like you said, negative and positive. And negative and positive, not good or bad, but just how it makes
like
you
energy-wise.
Energy-wise, yeah. How it makes you feel, right? So
I like that differentiating between good and bad.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, we'll touch on this later in terms of dealing with your emotional response and kind of understanding your emotions. But let's just get into like that first, the bottom rung in terms of making you feel like absolutely terrible is guilt and shame. There's a couple other things down there like apathy and but shame is a really, really big one. And Brene Brown, if you've heard, and if any of you guys have heard, is like a really big researcher on shame and guilt. She had a really famous TED Talk, so you should definitely check that. It's a good listen to and good audiobooks. But shame in her research is the number one underlying emotional common denominator between all self-destructive behavior, all destructive behavior in general. It's that feeling of shame. And so a lot of people feel shame, they don't even realize they feel shame, but again, it can create that. I felt tons of shame my whole life. And really the difference between shame and guilt. So guilt is, say, I feel bad about having done something wrong or an action, something wrong, whereas shame is I identify myself as a failure, as unworthy, as bad because of the action that I did or something that happened. So it's the difference between identifying with that emotional response and being able to separate yourself from it, right? So the difference between shame and guilt. Any thoughts on shame and guilt?
Neither are good. That's something that I've worked on personally. I'm not guilty for anything. I don't hold on to any of that shit. I got plenty of other problems, and I did have things to be guilty for, and I've worked on it and let that go and left those negative emotions in the past, and I'm trying to move forward and be better. But I fucking run into that all the time training people where they're like, I'm guilty for this, I'm guilty for that, and I'm holding on to all this guilt. I didn't even do anything wrong, and I feel guilty.
Yeah.
And a lot of it maybe stems back to low self-esteem and low self-worth and lack of confidence.
Yeah, and that usually happens to some people, a lot of people, in the ages like 3 to 8 or even a little bit later in life too. But
developmental years.
Yeah, and it just becomes a pattern in your brain. You don't even, when you're unconscious as a child, just going through life, those patterns just come to you, and again, like the shame, there's shame and guilt. Guilt is more ideal than shame to feel. And again, the difference is identifying yourself as somebody who's flawed or something that's wrong with you, and shame versus guilt as I did something wrong or I failed to do something correctly. Guilt, if you've ever read Man's Search of Meaning, Viktor Frankl, one of my favorite books of all time,
Yep.
He addresses guilt as a really great opportunity to change.
Fuck yeah.
So instead of identifying with that guilt and holding on to it and letting that become this recurring pattern of I feel bad, I feel bad, I feel bad.
Yeah.
What do I feel bad about? How can I change in the future to prevent that from happening or to relieve myself from the feelings that I feel right now? Right. So guilt is a really good catalyst for change, I think is the word he used, which I love.
Catalyst for change. So it's like if that is something that was an isolated incident, be aware of it, let it go, move forward. If it's a fucking pattern that you're stuck in, also be aware of it, but then break that pattern with a new, healthier habit.
Yeah. And then obviously there's, maybe you do feel guilty about something maybe that really did actually badly happen or something you really did mess up. And then it's the same thing. It's going to maybe take you a little bit longer, but not accepting that emotion response or, trying to reject it or just getting caught in the pattern of it, it's not going to change anything. Whatever happened, right? So we have to accept that, right? And that's an important part of
You can't change the past. You can forgive yourself and set yourself up for a success in the future. But nothing can change the past.
And that's, again, like the difference between, we talked about that in the little mental episode about just awareness, right? If I'm stuck on this thing, so say you're 40 years old and you're going to die in 40 years at 80, right? And you have this traumatic experience you feel guilty about or something that you really regret. So you have 40 years of your life to either spend regretting that thing or to be building and helping other people, helping yourself, growing in the future. So is where you direct your energy, right? Is that directed toward an emotion that's attached to something in the past? Or, like you said, forgiving yourself or forgiving the other person, which is obviously is a lot more challenging than just to say it right now, obviously, because I don't know what anybody else is going through. But I know what I've gone through. I know a little bit of what you've gone through. It's a freedom that happens when you are able to forgive yourself, forgive somebody else, and let go of that guilt. And talking about shame, because that's probably the more dangerous one. It's very common with people who are suicidal, depressed, or have violent behavior. It's really that attachment thing we talked about with mental. I forget the quote we had up last time or the time before, is that you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, right? So it's the same thing as identifying with the feeling. If someone's made me feel bad, a lot of people have made me feel bad before in my life, and I identify with that feeling, then now I am a bad person, or I am unworthy, and that touches on the self-esteem, self-worth issue. And now I'm in this constant loop of the external feedback is creating an internal loop. So now I'm just stuck over and over and
That's
over
better
again.
said. Because I would like to just correct the language. I don't think anyone made you feel bad or made you feel guilty or whatever. Something happened, and that's the way you react.
Yes, yeah, so again,
you know what I'm saying? Don't let other people control your emotions.
Yes, so that's what shame is identifying with that response, right?
Precisely.
So,
this person made me sad. This person made me guilty, or whatever. It's like, then you're with that logic, you would expect other people to make you feel happy all the time. You're the only one in control of your happiness.
Well, that's another thing is taking responsibility for how you feel and what you think, right? And so that's being a slave to somebody else, or is that being in control of your own emotions, and
Yep.
that's or in control of just how you feel and how you think. So
Yep. And I love when you said that forgiveness is freedom, because it's like you're really freeing a prisoner when you forgive yourself or when you forgive someone else, and then you realize that prisoner is you, and you
yeah,
fucking feel
that's
free.
that's great. And then it reminds me of the Don Miguel Ruiz, the Four Agreements. He talks about not taking anything personally, which is
Huge.
again a big thing for shame. If you do take things personally, identify with it. But he talks about emotional poison, that negative energy that you can hold on to, that someone tries to send to you, and you can accept it, or you can let that person hold on to it and not accept it.
Yep.
And now it's hurting, doing more harm to them than it is to you, right?
Because I'm just thinking now, it's like if somebody says something mean or whatever, take a moment to reflect on it, right? It's like if it was not true, then what the fuck do you even care, right? But if it's true, maybe take a deep breath and like learn from it, where you could either apologize or learn a lesson or do better in the future,
Yeah, and I think
instead of just reacting emotionally.
yeah, and that's speaking of like reaction. Like that's a lot of the emotional response is reaction to something external, right?
Yep.
And like your external environment.
Yep,
Someone
yep,
says
yep.
something happens, and something wells up inside you: anger, sadness, happiness, maybe, right? And that's again being aware of what's coming through you and what you're actually cultivating within yourself, right? So not accepting whatever emotion comes as just that's who I am, right? Because you can experience every spectrum of the emotion in a single hour, let alone a single
Sure.
lifetime, right?
So that's not you. You are not your emotions.
So yeah,
They come and go, and you're still you. You're above that. You're bigger than that. You're more than that.
yeah, but yeah, identify them,
Oh, then you're fucked.
or identify with them, then you're fucked. But like identify them, observe them.
Become aware of
Become
them.
aware
Don't
of them.
identify with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, got it.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, because that's what I thought you were saying. Like, if you identify with your emotions and you have a lot of negative thoughts, then you're just Mr. or Mrs. Sad all the time.
Yeah,
and
and
then
that-
that's you.
and that's
I'm
dangerous,
this.
That's
I'm depressed. Some
Yeah.
doctor told me I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Some doctor told me I'm anxious. So
Yeah.
now I just have to play that role.
That's just who I am now. right?
Or you can fucking be aware of your shit and leave those old negative emotions in the past to become better in the future.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we said this last time, but like depression is something that's in the. Who was worrying about
Say it
things in the
again, because
past.
it's huge, and some
then
people
ex-
don't like grasp the concept. So say it, and then let's unpack it a little bit.
Yeah, depression is an attachment to things that happened in the past, and anxiety is attachment to things that haven't happened yet or in the future, right?
So neither of them are real.
No,
Depression is a memory, and anxiety is a future imagination, right? But they feel real because you're attaching them to emotion, which you feel in the present.
Well, there was an emotional response that maybe got triggered at that
Yep.
time, and now that's so every time you let that emotion come through you, and when you're thinking about an old memory or an old experience that was negative, your body is reliving that experience
Literally.
again.
On a neurological level, your cells are fucking
experiencing
reliving.
that again. It doesn't know the difference, right? But
Yep.
that's what it's feeling, right? That's what you're feeling. Is that same tension maybe you feel in your chest or the head.
Oh, yeah.
I get migraines, right? However it
Oh, yeah.
happens in your body. That's just the emotional response being made known in your body. So yeah, let it go, guys. But that's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah,
right?
easier said than done, but that is the answer, is awareness and then letting go.
Yeah. And then the other emotion I want to get to is a big one, and that's one that a lot of people talk about all the time, is fear. And
Fear of success, fear of failure, fear of
how many phobias are there, right? Fear
all
of
these
everything.
phobias.
Fear.
And then, where they all like stem from, the root of all those is like fear of death, correct?
Yes,
Would you say
exactly,
so?
right? So, I mean, we can even break it down. Fear of failure, which is a very common one that people have a hard time dealing with or understanding, right? So, fear of failure. So, if I feel like I fail, I feel like I have not accomplished what I'm supposed to do. And if I have not accomplished what I'm supposed to do, then I'm not living the life I'm supposed to. And so now I have this tension in my body of failing. Essentially, for me, is really the death of who I thought I was, right? Or who I was made of my mind to be, right? So I had this report I was supposed to, I had this job I was supposed to do, right? And I failed at this job. Well, that job I identified with as who I am. So if I failed at this job, then that's the death of who I thought I was, right? All fear can be traced back to that fear of death. Fear of being alone is fear of not being able to procreate, not passing on your genes. That's a biological response to fear,
Yep.
right? That's a survival response to fear. Just even what other little fears you got? There's a lot of silly ones that people
Well,
have.
I don't have
Not silly, but
yeah, no, trivial,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I never fail. I either win or I learn. You know what I mean? And that's just once again a mindset and a perception switch. But I've seen people not only the fear of failure, but the fear of success. Like they hold themselves back because they don't feel worthy enough to accept the confidence and joy and gratitude and good feelings and happiness of victory.
And there's a responsibility to victory, right? And there's a change that happens, right? And then that's exactly what I'm saying is you get caught up in these patterns, and that pattern your body likes to stay the same, right? That's a biological engineering response.
Literally is. It's just homeostasis. It's
things staying
balance.
the same is good. That's my highest rate of survival in this body is just for things to be the same. That's what I know. If the unknown is scary, if you're a caveman in the jungle, the unknown is very scary, right? So whatever is normal, quote unquote, whatever is stable is safe. So whatever you are now, whether it's good or bad or ugly, is what your body wants to stay as because it just all it knows, right? It's better. Your body thinks, your mind, your emotions, all that, the ego thinks it's better to stay the same than it is to have the possibility of going to something new because it also means the possibility of failing or death, right? That's what it is.
Sure. And that's why change is scary. And that's why you have to face be aware of your fears, have some awareness, and then say fuck your fears and face your fears.
Yeah, and then change. And so this is where the fear of death can allow you to help, can help teach you to grow is once you realize that the fear of change is the fear of death. Once you accept that death, you can accept that the change you need to order to grow, right? And we'll talk about the idea of death, and I guess in the spirituality episode, of what death really is, and it's hard to say because I have not died yet, at least in a physical body. But
I was gonna say we might need a whole episode on death because I've had so many
you've had some
emotions tied to death. Like at first I wanted death.
Yeah.
On like some fucking like Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain type of shit,
Yes.
where like I liked the rainy days and all black and sad music and the blues and fucking drugs and all that shit. Then switched with like a complete fear of death with like fucking gotta wash my hands 8 times a day, gotta eat everything organic, gotta fucking exercise 19 times a day, like
so
two extremes, right? And then after like reading experiences, awareness, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, psychedelic experiences, I don't even fear death anymore. It's kind of like the fucking rain metaphor. When the rain falls into the ocean, it's just going to evaporate again up into the clouds. It's just a cycle.
A cycle, yep.
And when you read like ancient cultures...
That's a Rumi quote, right?
Sure.
You're not a drop in the ocean, you're an ocean in a single drop, right?
Yo.
So when you understand that, it makes it a little bit less...
But all that is, though, it's not that I'm still a mammal. I'm still going to die, right? But my perception has changed now, so I don't fear it.
Yeah.
And fear will hold you back from growth and becoming better. So now that I've knocked that out, I can face my fears and become better.
Yeah, and that fear, that once you reconcile all your fears to the fear of death, and you can take a deep breath, just relax and sigh and say, I'm going to die anyway, right?
So fuck it, let's have a good time and do my best.
Yeah, so you only have one opportunity, right? It's at the end of your life, I mean, I read a really good quote about someone referencing another book, so it's like a third-hand story. Quote. Yeah, exactly. About this woman who was a hospice nurse, where she was interviewing people who were on their deathbed, and all their regrets they had is all the things they didn't do, they were so afraid to do, and now at this moment they realize that they're going to die no matter what. It seems so silly. It seems so silly to them that they even let that get in the way, right? Because you could die at any single moment. Like anybody can die at any moment without you even being aware of it. And we've all probably experienced that at some point. Like you get the phone call or something like that, and life is short, right? So it seems like it's a long time when this moment in time is relative, whatever.
Right, it's the longest thing we have in this conception of time.
Exactly, right?
But in comparison, relatively in time, it's fucking super short. Like crazy super short. Less than a blip.
Do you remember that guy back in Rome who did that thing? Because I don't. Nobody else does either, right? So stop worrying about what other people think.
But that's the biggest thing. The lesson from people that were going to die, older folks, was don't fucking have regrets.
Yeah,
face your fears and go do stuff.
Yeah.
That's not that I love this company or whatever, but they're super successful. The best slogan ever since the 80s, since they became a company. Best slogan ever, because they never even changed it. Just do it.
Nike.
Think about that. Fuck Nike, who cares? But I'm saying like the slogan itself.
Just
you know
do
what
it.
I mean?
Yeah.
Just go for it, man.
Like one shot. So understanding where that fear comes from is really important, because anytime you have that fear response, ask yourself, why am I afraid, over and over and over again? Like why, and you'll get down to almost like afraid of. It's really some sort of fear of death.
Why? Because of this. But why that? Because
fear
of
of
this.
non-existence, or fear of death, or fear of just not being who you thought you were, and that's all the same thing. So if you can pause in that moment and break it down, you'll be able to come back to that. And once that's a powerful feeling, to be able to break down your emotion.
It really
right?
is.
Because you're like, oh wow, this isn't just something that happened. This is not happening.
And it's not controlling your life now.
Exactly.
You're aware of it. And you're like, okay, motherfucker.
And you can break it down, right? So it's like, I'm breaking you down, you're not breaking me down.
Yes.
Right?
That's empowering shit right there. You're not breaking me down. We're going to fucking box this motherfucker. I like that.
Put your dukes up.
I like it.
Yeah. And then, those are the guilt, the shame, and the fear are ones that really kind of keep people really suppressed and oppressed, right? Suppressed in terms of what they can express, and oppressed in terms of what they feel about themselves. Anger is a little bit different one.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first ones I've fucking been wrestling with for decades, but anger and hatred and holding on to those, I'm still working on.
I guess the difference I define anger and hatred as personally is anger is much more of a reactive response, whereas hatred is something that's more of a conscious, repeating pattern.
Like built up,
So someone yells a racial slur at me, like there's an initial response in me to get angry, right, or something like that. Whereas if someone did something to me a long time ago, and now I think that thought over and over again, I hate that guy, I hate that guy, I hate that guy, that's hatred.
Right.
That's a recurring pattern. That's me holding on to an emotion. That's me holding on to a feeling.
But I love that. It's like you holding on to a hot coal trying to fucking get back at that person, and you're just the one that ends up getting burnt.
Yes.
And it's better to just let it go.
Yes, I mean, when you think about you having hatred towards somebody, and there's a lot of hatred going on now in all parts of our life right now, and you think about what that hatred is actually doing, not to you or to anybody, but what is happening with the hatred. You're holding on to it, right?
Yep.
It's yours.
It's only negatively affecting
So
you,
if
not the
you're
person
angry
you
at
hate.
if there's somebody you hate,
They're fine.
in a 24-hour day, you hate them 2 hours. That's 2 hours of your day, not their day.
You're suffering.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's going to have, again, the body, doesn't know, it doesn't differentiate between, like, I hate this person, that person. It just feels negative energy. It feels a negative response, and that's going to affect yourself on a cellular structure, neurological. This is scientific. This is not just me woo-woo.
Science.
This is muscularly, you'll literally become weaker, like in terms, it's a neurological response, right? So,
and disease state. That's how cancer builds up, holding on to shit.
Yeah, like actually though, yeah. And you think about that. What cancer is. The cancer is the proliferation of a cell, like an uncontrolled proliferation of a cell.
That's literally
right?
what it is.
And then we talk about these emotions that we hold on to, and they just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow until
trouble.
Or
you could have that awareness and take responsibility for your own health and start working on your shit.
Yeah, and like a big thing, again, we always touch on awareness, and we always connect it to everything, because everything is connected. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual is meditation. Just awareness meditation is probably the biggest tool, or the easiest tool, and most accessible tool for anybody to cultivate awareness.
Saved my life.
Yeah, we talked about that with the mental, but again, it touches on every single thing. It's going to help you physically, mentally, definitely emotionally, because the same way a thought runs through your mind, and you attach to that thought during meditation, same thing, an emotion will come up when I attach that emotion. Although for me, the emotion triggers the thought, and the thought triggers the emotion. So again, it becomes this weird feedback loop, right?
Yep. You ever read Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers?
I know of the book. I never actually picked it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good shit. So it's like, all 23 hours and 58 minutes of the day, the zebra's chilling.
Yeah.
Just growing and loving life and eating and chilling. For 2 minutes, he might have to run away from a lion. So negative energy, fear, cortisol, adrenaline spikes, and then if he makes it to safety, he's fine. But now the body, like you said, doesn't differentiate between modern day stress. Your boss yelling at you, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, traffic, some jerk off on Twitter, fucking Donald Trump, Joe Biden, all this bullshit, right? Yeah. Your body's holding on to that negative energy now for days and weeks and months and years. And that's why you get cancer, ulcers, inflammation, et cetera, chronic
digestive issues, autoimmune
digestive issues, it goes on and
on. Just going back to anger, that's one that I think a lot of people feel right now, like I said, but it's one that, again, if you recognize it as a response to something is making me angry, well, now that thing has power over me.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever's happening that's making you angry, observe what is happening within yourself. That's why is it making you angry, and then two, reflect on what can I do about that about the anger right now. What is that person doing to me right now? Obviously, if it's somebody far away that's making you angry that you have no contact with, right? Then that's the same thing. Like 2 hours a day,
It's
I'm
wasting
upset.
energy.
Yeah,
Literally.
that could be energy being spent on being aware of the other emotions that are holding you back from doing what you really want to do, rather than an emotion that's pulling your attention to something else that's not going to help you get anywhere, right?
Don't hold yourself back. Every single day is you versus you.
Yeah. And then I know we've talked about a lot of the crappy, shitty emotions.
Yeah, let's raise it up. Let's
talk about love.
The energy.
I'm talking about love.
Love. Let's talk about love.
So love is, we're talking about love like, Valentine's Day love, Hallmark love.
Yeah, I'm not a subject matter expert on romantic love, right? Which is important. Relationships and sex and romantic love is important.
Yeah.
I'm just not qualified to speak on that, specifically.
Yeah.
Right. So, but let's not say that that's not important. That's just not what we're talking about. We're talking about loving yourself, most importantly, and like loving what you do and like your purpose in life.
Yeah. And then also loving others, but the difference between romantic love and then an unconditional love, right? Like unconditional love is what I would consider like the whole universal conscious love.
Sure, like capital L versus lowercase L.
Yeah, like I love you, like I love you no matter what. Like I'm not gonna, like I can say it to everybody. I'm not gonna have sex and get married to everybody or have a relationship with everybody, but I can still love them, right?
Or like a cheeseburger. You can love a cheeseburger. You're not gonna have sex with a cheeseburger.
Well,
again.
I won't, but I'm sure there's somebody who has.
Oh, they're doing it right now.
They're doing it right.
How do you think they get the special sauce in the Big Macs, dude? But no, we've talked about this before, like the lack of nuance in the English language, like compared to other Latin languages. So, for example, like in Spanish, you could say me gusta, that you like something.
Yeah.
Me encanta, that you love something, that you really like it. However, me amor, romantic love or deeper love connection is a whole different word. Where you're like, I love the lamp. And I love my grandma.
I love cheeseburgers. I love Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, and it
I
like takes the fucking energy out of the word. You know what I mean? Right. Do you love the pencil and the lamp?
It's the same word.
Your husband?
Yeah, these are all the same thing.
It's the same word, but that energy and intent and context behind it matters.
So we're talking about the unconditional kind of love, that deep, deep love. The deep love.
That sweet, deep, deep.
Oh, yeah.
Deep love.
So,
deeper and deeper.
So you talked about self-love. So
yeah, man, that's important.
Yeah.
Because once again, hatred, fear, guilt, shame, anger is holding you back from growth and becoming better and fulfilling your dreams and goals and desires and aspirations, right? But if you love yourself, your higher self, and the journey that you're on, then you can grow and be productive and be happy, achieve happiness.
Let's even break down how love can address these three negative ones up top here, right? So if let's talk about guilt, right? If I did something and that I regret or I feel guilty about something, how can love help that? Love, it goes back to forgiveness. Love, do I love myself enough to let myself move on from this and learn from this? Do I love myself enough to just to reconcile this emotion so I can grow, or am I going to keep myself up in this situation?
Keep beating myself
Is that what I want for myself? Is that what a loving person someone who loves me would want for me? I don't,
Oh, that's a good perspective. Right? Put yourself in someone else's shoes.
I know
always good.
I know we've talked about this. Is there's the famous line. It's from a lot of places, but treat others as you would like to be treated. But most people treat themselves like shit. So would you treat other people like shit? Right? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
So if you love yourself and you treat other people like you want to be treated yourself, then everybody gets treated with love, including yourself.
The quote we came up with is treat others how you want to be treated, but treat yourself like you would treat your best friend.
Yes, exactly, right. And then fear, right? So if all fear is fear of death, and you have this one life, would ask yourself, like, if I loved myself and I knew I only have a finite amount of time to be here, what would I want for myself, right? And then more often than not, there may be some negative things that pop up, but it's like, I have this one life. If I love myself, I'm going to make the best of it.
We can talk all day about heaven and hell and the afterlife and reincarnation and whatever, but what we can agree on is this incarnation,
this physical experience,
this physical mammalian experience is only getting one trip, one cycle.
So, as far as you're aware.
So whether you think you're going to die tomorrow or live forever in some infinite heaven cycle or reincarnation cycle, why waste it?
Yeah.
Why not make the most of it and love yourself and love what you do?
And to touch back on fear of death real quick, fear of death stems from ignorance of the truth. And we'll touch on that spirituality, because when the experiences you've had, and I've had some experiences too, and a lot of other people, not just us,
Sure.
you know, near-death experiences. A lot of people come back from near-death experiences changed for in a much more positive way, and there's a reason for that, which we'll touch on.
Yeah, big time. That's some trippy shit.
Yeah, it's some trippy shit. Let's go on to like anger and hatred, how love can dispel that, right? So if I know that other person is angry at me, and I can attest, and I can see that anger stems is an emotional response they're experiencing, right? And that they are maybe afraid of something, and that fear is from some sort of ignorance, then I can have, you know, love for them, knowing that they may not know why they're doing what they're doing. It's not taking it personally. Don Miguel Ruiz also has another thing I love, the second agreement is not taking anything personally. That I don't have to accept it because I know that he doesn't even really know what he's doing, right? He's not even aware of the fact that he's spreading the poison. Or maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but either way.
But you don't got to drink it.
I don't have to accept it. And I can just love him knowing that he's a person who's struggling with his experience the same as I am, right? Because if someone's feeling angry, they're not happy with their experience.
100% well said. So that's what I try to look for is like why they're judging, why they're spewing hatred. It's like, oh, somebody's hurting you, or you don't like yourself.
Yeah,
and you're taking it out on
exactly.
everybody
Because
else.
it's really easy to say this person's evil, I hate them, they're the devil, but it takes a lot more compassion, right? Love
to empathize.
And say like, this person's dealing with the same experience as I am, not the same experience, but is living in a body the same way as I am, and is going through things that I don't know about. So rather than making him into some avatar of evil that is about me,
sure.
I can just accept that he's his own thing, dealing with his own issues.
So then once you accept that and you become aware of that, in my opinion, you have like two choices. You could either like squash the beef and love them and like go to them and express love, and sometimes that works, and they're like, whoa, I'm sorry, I was fucking up. Or just choose to ignore them is another good thing. Just keep yourself safe and away from negative toxic energy.
Yeah, because you'll be doing them a favor and doing yourself a favor.
Just remove yourself from the situation or confront it with love.
Yes.
I like it. Let's keep moving up the ladder.
Gratitude is a big one for both of us.
We've always talked about gratitude on every episode,
attitude.
and we're never going to stop talking about gratitude. So we'll just be brief. But it's like today, you could just be grateful that you have a refrigerator and running water.
I had a hot shower today.
Ooh, man! So many people are showering in the river twice a week
with like bacteria and stuff.
Bacteria and fucking crocodiles.
Shit. Yeah, and crocodiles.
So if you have running water, you have something to be grateful for. And then I stop myself because it's like if you have a heartbeat and you can breathe, you have something to be grateful for.
You have your limbs, if you have your senses.
There you go.
You can break it down to any level. So
and just find, it sounds silly, but it's like when you take a deep breath and say that you're grateful for something.
Especially when you know that you're going to die someday, which we all will. That's the only thing that's guaranteed, is the quote is, the only thing that are guaranteed is death and taxes, right? But not even taxes or something.
I was going to say, taxes are a scam anyway. That's a whole nother
So death is the only guaranteed thing. Be grateful for what you got in this moment, right? Anything can happen at any single moment. A pandemic can happen at any single moment. Or the world can collapse at any single moment. So if you got someone, a homie, that you get to do a podcast with, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful for everybody that's listening in right now.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully learning something. And, we're going to do a whole episode on this, but I know it's big for you and definitely big for me. Gratitude journaling. It's an easy way to incorporate a positive emotional, or just manage your emotional response, manage your emotional energy every single day super easily. A couple words.
Endless.
Yeah, you can go on forever. You can
Endless.
It's an infinite amount of things to be grateful for.
You're like, but after a first week, I'm gonna run out of shit that I'm grateful for. Nope.
You
just
won't.
Keep thinking.
You won't. Just do a couple things every night. Just write down what you're grateful for.
Yep.
And then, with the whole spectrum of emotions is understanding, where emotions are coming from, why they're coming, and really just how to manage them. Because I'm a sensitive person by unconscious nature. The more I become aware of my emotions. Some people are less so. Some people have a hard time or just not connected to their emotions the same way I am. That's not right or wrong. It's just a matter of just what affected me when I was younger and how I grew up with that. Either me or the opposite kind of person or slaves to that experience. But it's really useful in terms of growing as a person in all levels or all layers, right, of health, to understand why I'm feeling that emotion and what to do when an emotion pops up, especially one that I don't want. So for you, when a negative emotion pops up,
Want to know my secret? I'm always angry.
It's like being drunk. You just don't stop drinking. You don't get hungover if you don't stop. Don't stop. Right?
There you go.
Just gotta
That's
keep it
the
going.
secret. No, awareness is the biggest key, and for me, it comes back to meditation. I can blow the steam off with exercise. Now, there's distractions. There's fucking candy, junk food, porn, television, internet, games, whatever, which is a temporary distraction that can give you some dopamine and some temporary pleasure versus like serotonin and long-term happiness and bliss and actual success and happiness. But I always think of it like a yin-yang positive energy thing, like a hardcore exercise or a completely relaxing restorative meditation. For me personally, those are the two things that help. Like you have so many options for distractions, negative or positive, but I like exercise and meditation. And then routine and purpose, like finding your purpose in
I wouldn't
life.
say meditation's a distraction, I guess.
No, I'm saying meditation and exercise are good choices compared to the unlimited distractions that you have
gotcha.
that might feel good in the moment. Piece of candy, porn, a movie,
piece of candy.
video game, whatever. You know what I mean? That's all temporary dopamine release.
Yeah.
That's not long-term sustained happiness.
Yeah, and with meditation, the same way if you've ever used a guided meditation app, which if you're new to meditating, try one for sure. That they can be very useful and kind of if you feel like ambivalent about the whole thing. But a lot of them, when you first do it, will just tell you to observe your thought, let it come, see it for what it is, and then just let it pass through. You know, different metaphors, like a cloud, like the wind, right? Same thing with your emotions. If I have an emotionally negative response, my initial reaction may be to push that response away or to distract myself with something else. But if I just kind of sit with that emotion, you know, that's a big teaching of Buddhism, is sitting with your emotion, letting it be what it is. And then once you accept for what it is, you'll notice the intensity or the fear that's attached to that emotion or feeling that emotion will dissipate slowly. But it takes awareness, it takes a little bit of courage on your part to sit with that emotion, and obviously the more you practice, the better you'll become at it. And that's acceptance, and that's letting go.
Can't beat the river into submission. You become aware of it, and you fucking go with it.
There you go.
I love it.
And then last little touch on, which is really good for dealing with all these, especially the two most dangerous ones, the guilt and the shame, is forgiveness.
Oh, forgiveness is my biggest thing. But real quick on meditation,
Yep.
because I love you gave a little quick prompt. I personally don't like guided meditations, and I have my own personal reasons for that. But like you said, if you're new, go for it.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
we'll
I
unpack
don't.
that in another episode.
I don't meditate with a guided app. I have before, and it's not
you're
wrong.
a fucking black belt ninja Jedi.
Yeah, but again, it's easy to get caught up with saying that like you need to get to some level of meditating.
That's the best part. I remember one time trying to describe it. I was like, I used to be really good at meditation. Like it's like, bro, that's not the point.
That's the point. Yeah. But they can be a good starting place.
Yeah, but real quick though, that's a great starting place. Yeah. But how I started was just bringing your awareness to your breath and picturing your breath coming in and out, kind of like the ocean where it's like never-ending waves coming in and out. And then if a thought pops in or an external stimulus, like a sound, like if you hear a bird, you don't say, don't think about a bird, don't think about a bird. But you also don't overanalyze and you're like, I wonder what kind of bird is it? You know what I mean? You just say, that's a bird, I'm aware of it, back to the breath. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like another one, a lot of, again, spiritual teachers talk about it, is just identifying, like, I'm thinking right now, or like, as I say, just saying it out loud, or identifying, or naming it, right, is a big one.
Trippy stuff.
Yeah, I'm reading this book.
I am
Tara
thinking.
Brach, Radical Acceptance. She brings up when you have a thought or a feeling or a negative thing, just, I'm thinking. And you immediately disassociates you with the thought.
Yeah, that's trippy stuff. That's going to help me out. I am thinking. I am feeling.
I'm feeling.
I am.
Anger.
Because isn't that... No, it's Ram Dass. I was going to say Yogananda. Like, I am loving awareness.
Yeah. Well, she tells a story about a client she had, because she's a psychologist or a therapist, who had to give a big speech. He has Alzheimer's, but when he was younger, he went to go give the speech, and he blanked immediately at getting ready to give this major speech.
Like 8 Mile?
Yeah, and he didn't know what to do. So what he did was he like paused and started to just name everything he was feeling to himself for like 7 minutes in front of everybody. Before he actually gathered himself together, was like, I'm sorry about that.
Went on like autopilot.
So he was like, I'm fear of failing, fear of messing this up, can't speak, stuttering.
So the inner dialogue was coming out?
Yes, he was just naming everything, naming it. And so
he worked through it?
At the podium to give a speech, he worked through it. He's like, he apologized, but he looked up, and this is like a spiritual talk, a Zen Buddhist talk, and there's people crying. They're like, "That's
because that's awesome.
That's the most powerful thing you could have taught us today."
That was dope.
Right? That's a powerful thing to name your the negative things, because I think in like Native American spirituality or religion or healing, that the shamans believe that if you can name the disease, you could subdue the disease. Obviously, that the point I'm making is if naming a negative thought or naming a negative energy
Awareness.
gives you awareness, and then takes away power from that, right? And then disassociates you from that. So
Empower yourself by taking the power away from negative emotions and negative thoughts. Negative
this
people.
has been an emotional roller coaster, Sean. But
I love it, buddy. Let's so forgiveness real quick.
Yeah.
That's real freedom. Forgiving yourself from your old shit, forgiving other people, forgive people that you're not even in contact with, forgive people that are have passed away. That helps you heal. You feel better. So, and if there is somebody you can text, call, pull to the side and forgive for something that you did or said or whatever, or even thought, and something that happened, forgive them. They might feel better. You will definitely feel better yourself.
forgive yourself, love yourself.
What
Let that shit go.
did you take us out with this beautiful quote?
Yes. So, in regards to the emotional response, or emotional energies, emotions in general, bring awareness to whatever emotion comes. Sit with it, accept it, and then open your heart to the lesson it has come to teach you. Because if you sit with it enough, long enough, and you're able to accept it, you'll see that it's telling you something about yourself or about your experience that will give you power to change that, to grow.
Love that.
So let your emotions be your
I love
teacher.
it. I like how like Kanye said, like his mental issues are not a disability; they're a superpower. You know, I love that shit.
Yeah.
I say, bring it on. I fucking love adversity. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I just love it. I want all that smoke. I know that that's the opportunity to grow and get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's get better together. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, bro. The bridge.
Peace.
Wah, wah, wah.